We'll call to order the regular city council meeting for 6 p.m. Tuesday, May 30th, 2023. City Council Chambers, 201 East Nash Street, Terrell, Texas. We have with us District 2, Grady Simpson. District 3, Mayor Ronnie Velasquez, Mayor Pro Tem. We have District 4, Stephanie Holmes Thomas, Deputy Mayor Pro Tem. And we have District 5, Andrea Reese, along with city staff and our city manager. We do have a quorum, so we'll continue with our meeting. Next on the agenda is for invocation. Pastor Johnny Dorsey with Highland Baptist Church is with us this evening. If you'll come forward. Pastor Dorsey, we're going to let you do the invocation. If everyone would remain standing for the pledges, and then I have a little presentation for you, Pastor.
Okay. Gracious, kind, and loving and forgiving Father, we come and we thank you again for this day. We just give you our praises for it. Father, we just thank you right now for our mayor, for our council. Father, we just thank you right now for our city manager and staff. Father, we just continue to lift up the staff to you, continue to lift up this city. Father, we just thank you right now for the many blessings that you bestowed upon us. Father, we thank you for continual growth. Father, we thank you right now that you're watching over, guiding, and directing. Father, we just thank you for the wisdom that you've given the staff and, Father, this council to be able to lead in the city. Father, we just give you all the praise for it, and we magnify your name. In Jesus' holy and precious name we do pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. All right, let me go through. So, Pastor Dorsey, if you come forward, please. Pastor Dorsey has done some remarkable things for the city of Terrell. And we want to say thank you, and we appreciate all you do for this community, right?
Yes, sir.
We're celebrating our sesquicentennial, 150 years. This is the commemorative coin that the council had made. And so we're going to give you one in honor of all your service to the city. And this isn't the first time you've come and prayed with us.
Yes.
We certainly appreciate that, and thank you.
Yes, sir.
So if you wouldn't mind standing here.
Yeah, okay.
Council members, y'all want to come get a photo, please? All right.
Thank you.
But,
Appreciate you. Yes, sir. Recognition.
I kept the cookie. No, we didn't really. Come on in. Can you get everybody?
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
man.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Okay, give me a copy. Hey. All right, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor.
Yes, thank you,
Yes, got
thank
one
you.
more.
I heard you were in the best graduating class at Terrell.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Hi, good to see you.
Not yet. So we also have mayor and council community recognitions and events. I do want to say that yesterday I attended a memorial celebration and a recognition in Kaufman. And we recognized an individual from the city of Terrell who has dedicated his life service in military. And I just want to say that the service went well. And Joe Hood was recognized in Kaufman for his service in the military. And it was a good event, well attended. So thank you everybody who showed up for that. In addition to that, some news has broken here in the city that we were asked to keep quiet, but it's the cat's out of the bag, so to speak. And Jamie Foxx has done something very special for one of our parks. And I don't know if Councilwoman Holmes Thomas would like to say anything about the park and the Breezy Hill Association with what Jamie Foxx has done for the courts. But we certainly appreciate that, and I think we're going to try to do a celebration now around the Juneteenth festivities. Is that correct? Yeah, yes? Okay. So, but when Jamie was initially approached the city on it, we had said that we would keep it quiet, but evidently sometime over the last week or so, someone took an aerial photo of it, and now they know all about it, so we're happy to do that. Does anybody else have any recognitions, comment? No?
Yes, sir, I have one. I want to recognize one of our downtown businesses, Whisked Away Bakehouse. They're just a wonderful little shop, and this summer they're going to be open later in the day and on Sunday afternoons. So the new hours are going to be 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Thursdays, they will be open 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. And on Sundays, they will be open 1 p.m. to 8 p.m. And for this summer, they're going to start having ice cream and other refreshing drinks. So it'll be great to take a stroll downtown and be able to stop in there and get some ice cream or something really yummy to drink. And they are located.
I'm just going to interrupt you because I really want to make sure I have downtown ice cream correctly on my mind. Whisked Away Bakery, I can get ice cream downtown this summer.
That's correct, starting
Awesome. Got it.
starting this
Okay.
weekend.
I got a lot of kids who will want ice cream, so thank you.
And it's at 118 Moore. So I would really encourage you, if you've never been there before, it's a wonderful little shop. They have all kinds of yummy goodies. Christy, the owner, is just an amazing person, and it's just a great place to visit. So I would really encourage everybody to stop by there when they can.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? You have your phone, your Michael? No.
Thank you. We're grateful, again, just to echo what you said about the donation at association, at the Breezy Hill Park. The Association of Breezy Hill Park was very excited about it when they heard it. I think it was donated through the Gilbert Willie Foundation. I think we all know about Mr. Willie and his contribution to the city. He's been an assistant superintendent and many years in education, and his son has some business opportunities, some businesses that he's been involved in here in the city. That family is a longtime resident of Terrell, and they have been very supportive of the city and what we do. So, again, a big thanks to Jamie Foxx and anybody, even the city staff that worked to ensure that that was favorable for us, and we got that in our city. It's going to be really good for our children. It's beautiful, and it's something that they deserve, and I'm proud of.
Oh, yeah, no, it's really nice. And also, you know, we were really going to have a great event at Breezy Hill. And what you see with their association, this is a park that the association adopted and put a lot of effort and work into, and you can see over the years how it's progressed and gotten so much better for the children in the area. But we were out there for the softball game, and you see families walking around. Everything that you would expect to see in a neighborhood park is happening there. So that's a good turnaround for Breezy Hill Park. Does anybody else have any more comments?
Yes, Mayor, I'd just like to say I'm very happy to see this at Breezy Hill Park that I grew up in, played baseball in, when we had the Blue Jays and the Redbirds. And just to see something like this happen for Breezy Hill, I've received a lot of calls of people that just really amazed about it. So am I. So
Yeah.
I want to thank the city of Terrell and all the partners who were involved.
Well, I look forward to being out there for Juneteenth, so.
And Mayor, there's a couple of city-related events that are upcoming. Next Monday, the 5th, in the afternoon, I believe about 4:30 p.m., the Ryder C. Halsey Library will have their Summer's Activities Fair, and that's an event for youth, children, and families to attend. Some of our city departments and along with community organizations are there, and they have booths for the families. And in addition to that, we also have the swimming pool that any of us in our community can visit during the summer. It will be open between June the 5th and about, I want to say late July or as well. And you can register for classes to swim, or you can also, as an adult or a child, and then you can also, of course, visit the swimming pool during public pool hours.
Good. Everybody good? Mayrani, are you ready? Is everyone here? Okay. At this time, we will have the swearing in of District 3 Councilmember Mayrani Velazquez. So if you would please come forward. Are you doing the swearing?
Yes, I will.
Or who's doing the swearing in, Mayrani?
You got somebody else?
All right.
Oh, okay. That's fine.
All right, if you would, please come forward.
Try to stay close to the.
Yeah.
I, Mayrani Velazquez, do solemnly swear
I, Mayrani Velazquez, do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office
that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office
of Commissioner of the City Council of the City of Terrell, State of Texas,
of Commissioner of the City of Terrell, Texas, City Council,
and I will, to the best of my ability,
and I will, to the best of my ability,
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution and the laws of the United States
the Constitution and the laws of the United States
and of the state and the charter and ordinances of the city.
and of the state and of the charter and the ordinances of the city.
And I furthermore solemnly swear
And I furthermore solemnly swear
that I have not directly or indirectly paid,
that I have not directly or indirectly paid,
offered or promised to pay,
offered or promised to pay,
contributed or promised to contribute
contributed or promised to contribute
any money or valuable thing,
any money or valuable thing,
or promised any public office or employment
or promised any public office or employment
as a reward for the giving or withholding a vote
as a reward or offer of giving a vote
at the election at which I was elected,
at the election of which I was elected,
or if the office is one of appointment to secure my appointment.
or if the office is one of appointment to secure my appointment.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Yo, Mayrani Velazquez, juro solemnemente
Yo, Mayrani Velázquez, juro solemnemente
que fielmente cumpliré las funciones
que fielmente cumpliré las funciones
de la oficina de miembro del Consejo Municipal del
De la-
Distrito 3
de la oficina del miembro del Consejo Municipal del Distrito 3
de la ciudad de Terrell, Estado de Texas,
de la ciudad de Terrell, el estado de Texas,
y haré lo mejor que pueda para preservar,
y haré lo mejor que puedo para preservar,
proteger y defender la Constitución
proteger y defender la Constitución
y las leyes de los Estados Unidos
y las leyes de los Estados Unidos
y de este condado
y de este condado
y de la Carta y ordenanzas de esta ciudad.
y de la Carta y ordenanzas de esta ciudad,
Y además juro solemnemente
y además juro solemnemente
que no he pagado directamente o indirectamente,
que no he pagado directamente o indirectamente,
ofrecido o prometido pagar,
ofrecido o prometido pagar,
contribuido ni he prometido contribuir
contribuido o he prometido contribuir
dinero o cosa valiosa
dinero o cosa valiosa
o prometido cualquier cargo público
o prometido cualquier cargo público
o empleo como recompensa
o empleo como recompensa
para otorgar o retener un voto
para otorgar o retener un voto
en la elección
en la elección
en la que estoy elegida
en la que estoy elegida,
o si es un cargo
o si es un cargo,
es uno de nombramiento
es uno de nombramiento
para garantizar mi
para
cargo.
garantizar mi cargo.
Así que ayúdame Dios.
Así que ayúdame Dios.
All right, congratulations. So if y'all would like to take photos, we're going to recess for just a few minutes, and then we'll go back into regular session, okay? We're going to recess. Let you take some photos. Would you like to say a few words before we begin?
Yes, I would first like to thank everybody, thank our community that has entrusted me. Again, I feel like I have run a couple of campaigns already, although I didn't have an election at this time, but with not just today, but every day that I am in this council seat, or I am faced with a decision that I need to make for the city of Terrell, whether it is a budget decision or whether it's an item that we are voting on, I always feel the presence of our community on our shoulders. And we may not always, as a council, agree or find the same path to get to the decisions that we make. But ultimately, this role here, the council role, is to make the best decisions possible for our citizens, and then also for the short and long term of the city of Terrell. And that includes all our staff, all and everything that comes with our staff and the work that they do, whether it's equipment or the policies that they follow, the short and long-term plans that we make for the city that you can see now, or we'll see 10 to 15 years later. But more than anything, I'd really want to thank my family and my friends that have joined me today. The first time that I was in the council chambers, it was a much larger group. And the longer you stay on council, the more support you really feel from your family. And I really appreciate them and their willingness to share their time with me and these chambers.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Well, welcome to 3 more years. That's what I've got to say. All right. Next on the agenda is 6.1, discuss and consider the minutes of the regular city council meeting on May the 23rd of 2023. Is there a motion on that?
Yes, Mayor. Motion to approve regular city council meeting, May 23rd, 2023.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second?
We have a motion from Grady Simpson, District 2, a second from Andrea Reese, District 5, to approve the minutes of the regular city council meeting on May the 23rd of 2023 as submitted. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries with unanimous vote of those present. Our next item on the agenda is discuss and consider zoning board of adjustments and appointments and reappointments. This is going to be handled by City Secretary Don Stile. However, I think before we get into it, we can just postpone this item. Is that correct, Councilwoman? Is that what you'd like to do?
Yes, sir, I would.
Okay, go ahead and make that motion.
Motion to postpone 7.1.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second?
We have a motion from Mayor Ronnie Velasquez, Mayor Pro Tem District 3, a second from Andrea Reese, District 5, to postpone the zoning board of adjustments, appointments, and reappointments. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous vote of those present. Our next item on the agenda is discuss upcoming meetings and schedules. This is going to be handled by our City Secretary, Don Stile.
Mayor and council, in your packet is the June, July, and August calendar. I just want to point out a couple of important dates. On June 29th, we will have the City Council Strategic Plan Workshop at the Terrell Police Department in the Rosenbaum Room from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. We do have a couple in July. There are a couple of days that we will not have meetings on July 4th or July 11th. And in August, we will be having our budget retreat on the August 3rd and 4th, and that location is to be determined. And again, you see our normal meeting schedule. In here is also a City of Terrell strategic plan schedule, as well as a budget schedule for the tax rate and the water and sewer rates and all of those. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
All right, so on the budget schedule, the city of Terrell, the fiscal year of 2023-24, those dates are
August 3rd and 4th.
August the 3rd and the 4th. Okay, so is everybody available on August the 3rd and the 4th? On the Tuesday meetings, we're gonna look at those, and if they're mandatory, if there's a issue that needs to be addressed, we'll have those. Otherwise, if there's an August that doesn't work for you on one of those Tuesdays, we need to know about that as soon as possible. Okay. Anything else? Anybody have any questions or comments for Don? All right, thank you. Next item on the agenda is boards and commissions. Discuss and consider zoning board of adjustment. Am I? Oh, I've already done it. Oh, yeah, I'm on item 8.1. Discuss and consider award of Paddock funding for downtown lighting and project. This is going to be handled by Raylan Smith, downtown project manager.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Bringing to you this evening some information regarding our last Paddock Board meeting. It was held on May the 9th. We're working on their strategic plan and also looking at their fiscal year 2024 budget. And one of the projects that they had mentioned and asked to get pricing on was downtown lights on the rooftops of all of our downtown properties. So this would be our downtown core in between Rockwall and Virginia. And what we're going to do is go down each of the side streets following the buildings. So we will have lighting on each of the side streets on the side of the buildings. They approved or wanted, they're asking for your permission to actually pull this out of their cash balance that they have rolled over the last few years so that it would be something that could be considered in fiscal year 2023, rather than it be a budgeted item for 2024. The hope is that we would be able to get a contract and have a downtown lighting during our mural walk, during the Sesquicentennial Mural Walk, September 16th. So that just wanted to give you a little bit of background information and see if you had any questions regarding this project.
So I see this is track lighting. So is that LED track lighting?
Yes.
And so can you do color changes?
They do
and so
multiple
the themes?
colors, yes, and
Good.
it's all app-based. We are actually, I had it quoted so that they're connecting to our existing streetlights downtown, so we're not actually having to plug into anyone's property along Moore Avenue. So the only rights of access that we're gonna need is just to do the roof installation.
Okay. All right, does anybody have any questions for Raylan?
Raylan, is this the lighting, would we own the lighting?
Yes, so the lighting belongs to us, and that initial contract actually covers the whole first year of maintenance. And then after that, it would just be on, they come out quarterly, just to do a regular check of the lights, but the warranty work would cover anything that was wrong with the lighting system for up to 5 years.
And is the Paddock Board anticipating, did they have a discussion about continuing to pay for the maintenance and any other expenses that may come along after the installment?
No, Paddock would be able to make the initial investment, the capital project itself, but then the maintenance of the lights would then be passed over to the city.
And then I'm scrolling through the documents here, and I'm looking for information of what would be that recurring cost.
I'll definitely get that for you.
I have a question. There's just this one company that submitted a bid.
We got 4 different companies to submit cost. That was the lowest.
And they were exactly the same. They supplied everything.
Yes. Yes.
Nothing was different.
Right. It was all compatible with the LED lighting.
I might have to just do this individually, but I'd like to see the other.
Okay, sure.
comparables next time, so I can compare apples to apples.
Absolutely.
So do we have an idea of what the lifetime is of the LED lighting?
10 to 15 years.
Okay, so they should only have to be replaced every 10 to 15
Mhm.
years.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Just, I'm wondering, 'cause I see this as a request from the paddock board for the purchase, the installation, the rooftop, not to exceed $175,000 to come from the cash balance. I'd have two thoughts. My one being a question on how much they have in their fund balance at this time, and two, if there were other items discussed in previous meetings that they were back and forth on how to spend the funds.
Yes, and those will be coming forward to you after the June 9th Paddock Board meeting. There were a few more items that I think they're going to want y'all to consider giving them permission to move forward in this fiscal year.
The cash balance is a little over 2.5 million right now.
And this was a unanimous vote,
Yes, sir.
right?
Yes, I included the minutes in your packet.
Good? All right, thank you, Raylan.
Absolutely.
Is there a motion on 8.1? Is this a not to exceed? Oh, it's a no discussion? Okay. Okay. 8.1, I have discuss and consider.
Yeah, technically speaking, it's in the discussion section, and we accidentally listed it as discuss and consider. So
Okay.
we were planning on bringing it back next week, so we'll bring it back next week.
Is there a need to do that if we already got it on the agenda for discuss and consider? We could move on it. Yeah, we could move on it if we needed to. Is there a reason that we wouldn't want to go ahead and move on it now? Raylan? Right. Does anybody need another week, or do y'all want to move on it?
In the spirit of transparency, I'd like to see the other bids.
Okay,
Sure, I'll bring all this back
All
next
right.
week. Perfect.
so really what we need is the comparison bids, right? Okay, good,
I will
all
do
right.
that.
Good. Next item on the agenda, discuss a development agreement with Chappelle Street. This is on Maramata.
Mayor and Council, good evening. The item before you, we have seen before, this is one of our infill development agreements. I have been working with the owner for quite a bit of time, and they've been gathering some stuff, so I kind of want to walk you guys through this since you have seen it before. Let's go through and let you know what the lot is, what it looks like currently, and then I'll give you some options, and then we'll go into the details. So currently, if you look in your packet on page 29, the area in red, so this is on the corner of Dixon Street and Chapel Street. So this is in the Stallings edition. On page 30 in your packet, you will see we're talking about lot 17, lot 18, and lot 19. So these lots currently face Dixon Street. They are 50-foot lots along the frontage, and they are about 186 feet in depth. And the current property is vacant. If you look in your packet on page 31, I went out there this afternoon and took a beautiful picture of me standing in that corner, so you can kind of see Dixon Street there to your left, and then you can see what Chapel looks like down the street there. It is a lot of trees in that area right now. And then on the next page, we'll give you a straight shot of what Chapel Street looks like. So you can see it's a full concrete street. There is a house on the end on your right-hand side there. There's a car parked out in front of it, and there is an old existing driveway right there to your left. So the next page, on page 33, this is what the applicant is proposing. So as you can see, there are 3 existing lots that face Dixon Street, and they are wanting to shift those to face Chapel Street. So what this does is it takes 3 50-foot lots, and they become, the one on the corner of Dixon and Chapel becomes a 65-foot lot, and then the other 2 lots are a 59-foot lots. So there's not enough room there for them to pass this plat. Our minimum, this is zoned single-family 6, so the minimum for that is gonna be a 65-foot lot. So they have 1, but they need 2 more. So they're taking 3 lots, shifting them, getting another 3 lots. As the owner does have the option to go before ZBA to allow the lot width to asked for the decrease in the lot frontage, for it to be a 60 rather than the 65, which is what our zoning ordinance calls for. They can go to ZBA, and that will be one of their options. Another one of their options is this development agreement that we have done with quite a few other applicants, and this presents a small decrease in the lot width, which would be those two 60-foot lots rather than the 65, 59-foot lots rather than the 65, and then a small decrease in the building size of the home. That was something that they requested. The owner requested for the development agreement and an increase in brick and stone as well. In the development agreement, on page 35, Article 1. I'm going to walk you through that just so we can see what it is. I'm sorry, Article 2. The company A, this is just stating that they will do the full masonry 100%, and they have an option of 2 of the design features to choose from. On item B on the next page, they are subject to review and only create 3 lots per the platting that they will have to do in our normal process. The next one is important. This is letter C. This is giving them that variance. City will allow a variance for a lot width on lot 2 to be 59 feet and a variance on the lot width on lot 3 to be 59 feet. So that is important. And then the next sentence does say that the city will allow a variance for the square footage to be a minimum of 1,850 square feet. And your current minimum, if the replat goes through, would be 2,000 square feet in the zoning. So there's a little bit of decrease there on the square footage of the home. The other items are, I'll walk through them quickly. D just says that they do have to construct a garage in accordance to our zoning ordinance. E states that there must be a tree in each of the lots. F is your porch standard, which is a 10 by 7. And then G, H, and all the rest are just legal stuff that Mary Gail told me that I had to put in there, so I said yes. In Article 3, this is A, B, C, and D. This is just saying that they will have to replat the property. They will have to construct no more than 3 houses, 1 per lot. So that is basically what I have. The owner did go ahead and provide me in your packets on page 46. They went ahead and provided me with a site plan, so you can kind of see how they are projecting that house to lay out. On the next page, on page 47, you can see that this is going to be that corner lot. So this will have a side entry garage. They have the layout of the home there. There's a fun little elevation of it, full brick. There is a porch with a side entry garage. The next page, on page 48, the same thing, a site layout of how that's going to be. They have all the details on there, front entry garage. And then the next page, on page 49, there's a proposed elevation as well as how the house is going to lay out there. And then the third house, also a site plan on that corner one. And the next page shows the elevation of the proposed third house, front entry garage, porch, all that fun stuff. I will point out one of the things that we caught when I went out there and took some pictures is that Chapel Street is a dead end, and per fire code, it does trigger something that if the street is more than 150 feet long, it will require some kind of turnaround. And that, again, that's a safety measure. I checked with the fire marshal. So that is something that we will be adding into the development agreement, just to say that prior to the applicant getting any building permit, they will have to do some form of temporary turnaround or turnaround for a fire truck, and that is up to inspection and up to our code. And let's see if I missed anything. I don't think I did. I'm happy to answer any questions. I know that was a lot of information.
So these are all 3-bedroom homes, right?
I believe that is what the proposal is. Yes, sir.
And the variance, the request is 59 from
65. 65 is your minimum in
6 feet,
single-family
3
6.
on either side is what you're giving up.
Correct.
Right.
Yes, sir.
And then-
The corner lot does meet it because it's 65, so it's just on lot 2 and
On the
lot
2.
3 that they're asking the variance for. Yes, sir.
And then on the square footage, there's 150 feet difference in what we would require normally.
think it's a little bit more. They're asking for 1,850 and our minimum's 2,000.
So it'd be
Yes.
150, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, okay. All right, just want to make sure I had those numbers in.
Yes, sir. Those are the variances that we're giving them with the development agreement.
Okay. Anybody have any questions, staff?
Yes, Mayor. I don't know, I know this is Councilwoman Moreno Velasquez district, but I'm just kind of, I don't really go for the long shotgun style homes. I mean, I know they have to build it long because of the way the lot is, but I see some of those in my district, and about a couple of them I just wasn't too pleased with how they had the door design and all those things, but I don't know. But I guess Councilwoman Marina Velasquez could kind of take a closer look at it.
Can I just mention something? If you go back to that very first graphic, the one with the second page of this whole presentation, sorry, it's agenda item page 29. Go back to agenda item page 29, because we kind of went over something quickly that I want to emphasize here. See how the Dixon shape here, the Dixon frontage here, is actually shorter than the Chapel distance. So right now, the owner has the ability to build today on 3 existing platted lots that are all only 50 feet wide. Because the shape of this box we're looking at is 150 by 186, they could today build 3 houses on 3 50-foot wide lots that would all be 186 foot deep, okay? And so what they're really doing is they're saying, hey, if we shift these 3 lots so they front on Chapel instead, they run into the technicality that because they're newly platted, they'd have to meet the new zoning. And the new zoning is for the 65 feet. On the other hand, what they're really doing is they're increasing one of the lots from 50 feet to 65 feet. Another lot goes up from 50 feet to 59 feet. And the other lot goes from 50 feet to 59 feet. Because now, instead of all of them being 186 foot deep, now all of them are only 150 foot deep, okay? And so they're actually taking advantage of the fact that their Chapel frontage is longer than their Dixon frontage. So it seems like, oh, we're reducing a standard, but what we're really allowing them to do is to increase each lot width by just a little bit to take advantage of the fact that it's not a perfect square.
That makes sense. I just hate to see all 3 houses kind of basically the same, and when you open the front door, you can see clean back to the back. That type of deal. I don't know how that look. I mean, I can see the diagrams on paper here, but I don't know. That just kind of concerned me. I would rather see 2 nice homes, that had their own unique personality side by side than 3 homes that was long shotgun style. And to me, it's just not a good look. But,
So looking at the other lots that are around this area, how would the size and the platting of the lots, if they follow through with the new plan, how would that size compare with other lots right there in the immediate area?
So most of those lots that are facing Dixon Street, those are going to be around 50-foot lots. Now, they all do vary in size a little bit more, but on average, most of them are going to be 50-foot lots. And that's what the 3 existing lots are now. They are 50-foot lots.
And are most of the houses like those 3 would end up being like basically 12 feet between each house because of the 6-foot, well, no, actually more than that. So it would be like 16 feet because one of them would be, one side's 10 foot and the other.
I can't speak for the existing houses. Our side standard right now in this area is 6 feet. But some of these houses were built a while ago and our zoning ordinance changes. So on average, they would be about 12 feet apart minimum. Yes, ma'am.
Omira, has this builder built in the Stallings Addition neighborhood?
I do not know if the builder has built in the Stallings Addition. I know that the builder has built houses in the city of Terrell, but I don't know exactly where. But I'm happy to find out that information if you would like.
If you could, and think, it sounds like the majority of council would like to have addresses for where they have built in the city of Terrell.
Absolutely.
By email will suffice. And And then I heard you mention the safety issue of where, yes, there's a dead end on Chapel Street, and with it being the kind of corner lot and a dead end, was there anything else that stood out that we need to be aware of?
Not at this time, no ma'am. That was just something that we kind of looked at and, you know, how you work on things and you just bring it up and it's like, oh, I should probably check with the fire marshal just to check. And he looked at it and he did say since it was 183 feet, it would need some sort of turnaround that meets. And that is a conversation that we need to have with the builder and let them know and say, hey, if prior to you getting a building permit, that would be something that we have to do.
If I recall, because it is there may be parts of the lots, or maybe I'm thinking of the lots closer to the end of Chapel Street where they may be at a bit of a higher elevation. Maybe it goes from a higher elevation to lower elevation as you're coming down to Dixon Street. Do you recall that? I'm wondering more specifically about water flooding, stormwater.
I think that's a great question, and I believe if you go back to the photo that you took of the street, if you kind of go to the next one right there, I think that photo's telling me that that water is going out toward the floodplain close to the Union Pacific Railroad tracks, but we can certainly check that between now and then. And if we make an improvement or the builder makes an improvement down at the dead end of Chapel, we can certainly make sure that we've got the right flood easements so that the water can sheet off of Chapel into the turnaround, the fire department turnaround that happens back there. So we can definitely take a look at that ahead of the next meeting.
I would try to preserve as much as of the road as possible and prevent some of the standing water.
You're right, the land degrades that way back down that street. So one of the things we're gonna have to look at is the drainage on there. It's already relatively flat, so we're not gonna make a 10-foot drop in this land that's not there. But we can make drainage methods to get it down there, and when it gets down to the end, we don't need to have the hammerhead or the turnaround or it pulls water up. So we're gonna have to look at the civil drawings of where the water's gonna go off the street. That's all part of just reviewing what the developer brings us. Then we make modifications and additions. That's just ordinary development discussions.
Thank you, that was helpful.
I think develop agreements are for this kind of instance. We got a lot of 50-foot lots in Terrell. There's a lot of 50-foot lots in Terrell with houses on them, with good people living in them. They're safe structures, they're good-looking structures, but we need to just think about our policies. It creates hardships for people to build houses. And just to kind of talk about what Mr. Simpson does, if it's skinny on paper, it's a shotgun. I don't think you can build a 1,850 square foot shotgun, because that sucker's gonna sell for about $300,000. So in my mind, it's because of our policies that make the houses look like that. It's gonna be narrow and skinny to get the square footage, because if the builder don't have Jay-Z and Beyonce money, the garage got to go on the bottom floor. That takes up a lot of your square footage. And with that being said, they got to be skinny to get the square footage because of the policies we had. It just makes sense. Restaurants get it. Healthcare gets it. The city of Terrell got to get it. If it's a small lot, it needs to be a smaller house. If it's a medium lot, it needs to be a medium house. If it's a large lot, it needs to be a large house. Because when we don't do that, things look funny in neighborhoods. And it says, well, who lives there? It's because when you have these cookie cutter policies, they don't work in all neighborhoods and all lots. So I'm for it. That's what develop agreements are for. It shows that we're working. We can get the income. We can put some families in those houses. We already know we got a shortage. So if we look and they turn that house the other way, if we divide the 186 by 3, you got 362 feet lots. If we let them get the 65-foot lots and the other 2 are 6 feet smaller, so we got 1/3 of it in compliance if they do this versus having 3 of them out of compliance So it's just like, it's the same difference. If we do 3 at 62 feet, that's 186 feet. Each lot is 3 feet too narrow. We just got to think about it. It's got to make sense. Only other way they can get the square footage is going with a 2-story. Maybe he'll do that, but it's just like, you got to make the house look like this because of our policies. But I don't think it makes that much difference if a house is a little smaller because the lot was 6 feet too skinny. Or you could say, I'm not even worried if we do the 62 times 3, if the lot is 3 feet smaller than our policy. But it's just an ordinance and a policy thing, and that's on us. And I've been talking till I got a few more gray hairs. Every house has got to look like this, unless you can put the garage on the top floor. And you can't do it because you lose 440 square feet on the bottom floor with a 20 by 20 minimum square feet garage. It's just what it is. We're gonna keep running into it. I'm for developers agreement. We need houses. We need families that can live in good houses, that look good, and that are new and that's safe. So that's my spiel. It's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Councilwoman, to your point, Dawn, if you can go to page 46 for me. So that lot right there, lot 1 on the corner, the reason that that one is a little bit bigger than the other one is because that is a key corner lot. And so they do have to have 10 feet from that corner in order to build on it, which is part of the reason why they're doing a side entry garage as well, and that one. So that one kind of why they didn't divide the 183 by the 3, they wanted a little bit more room to be able to build that house.
Anyone else? No. All right, so, are you gonna, we're gonna come back with this item, or what do we got going on?
Yes, sir, it's just a discussion item.
This will be, just rotate back around next time.
Okay, so we'll see ya. Next item on the agenda is, discuss financial report. This is gonna be handled by our Director of Finance, Shelley Wallace.
It is nice to welcome the Director of Finance, and thank you for being here tonight.
Mayor, Council, thank you very much. Tonight, I will be going over going through the March 31st financials, or the financials ending the period of March 31st, fiscal year 2023. So for the month of March, we don't really have any new surprises. That's a good thing. We continue to collect our revenues as budgeted, as we are halfway through the fiscal year. So tonight's financials and graphs will reflect that. And so we will start with the general fund. So we are slightly over collected in our revenues, which is great. And we are consistent in our expenditures. As I mentioned, there are no new events that would skew our numbers either way. We do have some grants that are due to arrive within the fiscal year and will be recorded and reported when we get those numbers. These are the graphs that represent our budgeted revenue and our actual financial revenues as collected through midway through the fiscal year. Our property tax collections, we have pretty much collected the bulk of our property tax collections. And about this graph, I think I mentioned it in a previous session, that in the way that these are budgeted, it basically takes the budgeted revenue and annualizes it or straight lines it throughout the year. So it doesn't really capture our actuals to revenues outside of our peak periods, and we will adjust that in our next budget year going forward. Sales tax revenues. So we budgeted really well. We had maybe a 6-7% difference back in November 2022. Other than the month of November, we have been pretty much consistent and slightly over collected or above revenues, budgeted revenues, through halfway of the fiscal year. So our water and sewer utility fund, the same applies here. We don't have any major events in the month of March that would skew our financials up or down. So as you can see, we are slightly above our budgeted revenues for the year. And we are holding well below our budgeted expenditures at this time. Airport fund, the same holds true. I did make an adjustment from our last meeting. I was talking about some budgeting issues, not issues, in the leases, where we just basically did a reclass because revenues for the Madix site on Airport Road was kind of miscategorized and was included in the airport fund when it really should be in the airport reserve. And so you'll see the impact of those of that reclass when we get to the airport reserve. Our tourism fund, so this contains our hotel occupancy taxes, and so we are consistent in our revenues with budget and holding below our budgeted expenditures at this point. For being halfway through the year, it looks really good. Airport Capital Fund. So this is the fund that I was just discussing. So if you focus on the 800 Airport Road line item, that was the reclass that was reclassed from the prior period into the proper fund. And we are well collected in our revenues. However, that percentage will be a little bit skewed as we need to budget amend in the revenues that were identified from the general fund for the ARP funds. Our vehicle and equipment replacement fund, things look very normal, consistent with budget and where we are in the fiscal year. Our utility capital reserve, we are pretty consistent with our revenues at this time in the year and slightly above our budgeted expenditures for the year. Stormwater utility also looks very well. Nothing, no major events that would skew these numbers for the month of March. And we are consistent in our revenue versus budget, in our actual revenues versus budget, and under our budgeted expenditures at this time. Our IT budget. So we are slightly under collected in our revenues, and that's mainly a budgeting item that we will tighten up as we move forward. We're slightly over expended in our expenditures at this time of the year, if you're looking at a 50% benchmark. However, we do have some expenditures that occur once in the year, and those are reflected in some of the percentages that reflect like in your 90s. So there should be no additional expenditures that we have planned for that should hit those line items. Our capital improvement fund, same holds true. We are slightly under collected in those revenues. We have some budget amendments that are in place and just need to be brought before council that would take care of some of the negative expenditures or negative variances that you see, because we have our own internal policy that we need to have something in place that we know that we're going to process certain budget amendments that relate to the expenditures. So once that happens, you'll see those variances return to a positive position. Paddock, we are on par in our budgeted revenue. There are some projects, again, that have not been initiated, which will kind of keep our expenditures suppressed. Even though we are 50% of the year, as you see, we are only 3% expended, and that's due to some projects that are not yet initiated. that completes my presentation to you. Do you have any questions, comments, concerns?
Yeah, no, thank you for that, Ms. Wallace. Is there any area that the council should be concerned with, either through the revenue or the expenditure side, that would cause concern for either you or for the council? As I look at it, it looked like everything looked good, but maybe there's something that I didn't see.
Not at this time, Mayor, and I say that with a great deal of confidence as we are working through the annual audit from last year and just seeing some of those preliminary numbers and where we've landed, kind of moving into the start of this fiscal year. There aren't any major adjustments that are going to occur that will modify our beginning fiscal year 23 numbers, to any significance. So I feel pretty comfortable about where we are midway through the year.
I appreciate your hard work. Also, it looks like we did a pretty good job as we budgeted for this year, as far as revenues on the tax.
Yeah, it looks really good, especially given the climate that we were in,
Right.
in the economic environment. I think we did a great job. We have been holding very, very consistent with what we anticipated and projected would occur so far.
Yeah, I agree. That's kudos to you and everyone involved in all of that process, and I look forward to getting into our budget year. Does anybody have any questions or comments for Ms. Wallace?
Yes, ma'am. Just about two areas, the IT and the capital improvement.
Okay.
I know you said they were under-collected, and we had some expenses that were over as well. So was the implication that you were saying was that this would eventually balance itself out over the fiscal year?
So let's start with the IT fund first.
Yes.
So basically, what I was referring to is, say, for example, if you look at the line item, public safety near the bottom, it shows 97% collected.
I see.
So that is the result of one subscription for our public safety radio system, and it's paid annually. And so when I looked at the agreement, so it was slightly higher in the last couple of years, so we budgeted based on those actuals, maybe give or take 5 to 10% more than the prior year. When we received the invoice, it was about the $82,239 that you see here, although we had budgeted for the 94, and that's the only payment that is budgeted to hit that line item.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so there's a couple other the other line item is in the facility. So when we have those types of charges, it's going to skew our budget a little bit because of where we are in the year. But as we move closer to the end of the fiscal year, you'll see that bottom line at 62% kind of just be consistent with where we are, truly where we are in the fiscal year. The closer we get to the end of the year, we have those one-time only subscriptions and things like that.
Thanks for clarifying.
Sure.
Kelly, can you remind me, is it 30 days that we look for, or reserves?
So that would be ideal, 30 or more. And so, again, I had indicated that we will start reporting what those reserve days are once we have a more final number from our audit this year. Because I know that we were really cleaning some things up in anticipation of the transition to the Tyler system. And so I didn't want to provide numbers that we were not yet really confident about. So once that happens, probably within the next week or two, we'll have those nailed down. So it is my goal, hopefully, to be able to report those to you by the time we do our May financials.
Okay, so in May, we'll know where we're at in terms of the reserve.
We should, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next item on the agenda is 8.4, discuss facility updates and future planning. This again is our downtown project manager, Raylan Smith.
I'm going to thank Raylan for being up here, and I'm going to kind of give a little disclaimer for her presentation at the start. Some of the projects she's going to talk about during this presentation are projects where we have a pending closing on a piece of property. So she's going to obey the ethic here of we're not going to disclose a couple of the addresses we're talking about. And so we're gonna hope that even though y'all on council have been briefed in executive session, that we're going to talk about this part of it in open session, and we'll be able to announce those addresses here coming up soon. But for tonight's presentation, we did make it generic. So take it away, Raylan.
Okay, so real quick, like Mr. Sims said, obviously everyone is working on strategic plans and we're working on budgets. And so what I kind of wanted to do was put together a presentation for you tonight to let you know where we stand with our future facility planning. Some of those projects that, you know, could be farther out on your timeline, and then some of those that you are looking at completing now. So we'll just kind of go through about 5 or 6 of those main top projects that everyone has been talking about. I wanted to give you a little bit of a timeline for each of those projects. So project 1 is going to be to relocate our existing animal shelter and animal control staff. This particular project, of course, is going to require property acquisition. We'll be looking at facility renovations, specifications. You know, we're going to definitely have to budget for additional kennels and outdoor runs and all of the drainage and all of the state safety items that they will put on us for that particular facility. So you're looking at approximately 2 months to get those specs and get a real list of the items that we feel like are going to have to be added. Obviously, we'll have to do exterior, interior upgrades or any of those compliance requirements, and so we're estimating about 90 to 120 days being completely finished with that. So your funding detail, as it's been explained to y'all, is this will be included in your 2021 CO. So that money has already been kind of edged out and put to the side to get this project rolling. Your next one's a very popular topic. It will be the addition of a new fire station. This will be fire station number 3. This proposal includes 3 apparatus bays, public lobby, sleeping pods, office and sleeping for your battalion chiefs and captain, firefighter decontamination, training rooms, and obviously just the general living space. Again, we do need to acquire the property. Your total design services are going to be about 6 to 9 months. Your construction documents and bidding will take you about 90 days, and then you're looking at 18 months for construction on that. And so there will be lots of future conversations about this, but we just wanted to make sure that that building itself got on your radar for any future CO considerations. Next project would be the possibility of a fire station number 2 renovation. This would be at the existing fire station at 225 Baker Street. There's an extensive amount of electrical, plumbing, foundation, and also just to include some of those staff safety upgrades, which you would hope would become the new norm as you kind of set in your fire station number 3. So as far as site work, we would definitely need to evaluate the need for additional land at or around that facility. Again, your design services will be anywhere from 6 to 9 months. Your construction documents and bidding are always about 90 days. And construction for a remodel or an add-on, you're looking at about 12 months. And so again, this is going to be for future CO consideration. The next one is one that we talk a lot about, although we don't know the exact location. It is slated to be in the town square area. We know that at a minimum, we need 20,000 square feet for a new Ryder C. Hulsey Public Library. Part of that square footage includes book return, drive-up service windows, staff workrooms, covered drop-off with bus access, the expanded ADA accessibility, and also additional community center space. So you'll be getting a report, a more detailed report on this whenever you hear back from the planner that's been working with Becca Anderson. We got a lot of feedback. We've had some surveys that have gone out. But this just kind of gives you an overall of the project and again, just where it would be plugged in at. Your design services for this facility, 9 to 12 months. Again, construction docs and bidding, 90 days, and you're back up to 18 months for total construction for this new construction as well. And obviously, this would also be for future CO considerations. The Downtown British Museum, will be located at 113 West Moore. TERS number 1 acquired this property back in January of 2020. They have also budgeted funds to include for the architectural and the engineering services. This will be a new facility. This includes demolition of the existing structure and a new building, a 4-story, 5,000 square foot museum located in downtown. The remaining design services are only going to take about 90 more days. We have to do some interior meetings with the museum staff themselves as far as the operations of the actual interior of the building. So there's a few things that still need to be done to have those plans complete, but then we would be ready to immediately go into your construction docs and bidding. And then we're proposing only 12 months for that build. Currently, right now, we have started the grant search for what available funds are out there. We're obviously getting some good write-ups about the museum, and we will be talking to different people. And one of the major goals is to help identify some of those major funding partners. Another goal with this project is going to be to draft a memorandum of understanding between the City of Terrell and the BFTS Museum to really kind of outline those deliverables that the city would need from the museum as part of their participation in this project, and also to help define some of those fundraising guidelines, et cetera, as they're raising funds for the museum also. So when we talk about next steps, just to remind you, back in February of 23, I think it was February 21st, I came to you to request permission to solicit RFQs for our construction manager agent and also for our design services. So this is just kind of a reminder of from which we came, and then I'll kind of walk you through some of the steps that staff has gone through and then what some of those recommendations are going to be for each of you. So just a basic reminder about what the construction manager agent is. I think it's important to remember, you can go to the next slide, I'm sorry. It's important to remember that the construction manager agent actually holds a fiduciary duty to represent the owner. So this is a little different from your standard CMAR. Generally, your CMARs give you that the maximum bid not to exceed, and they're also able to work with a contingency that the owner does not have. It's not within the owner's signature to approve or deny any change orders within the contract. So typically, when you have a project, you will simply go out for bid to have a CMAR, and then they get their own vendors, and you don't ever know the final price that's paid out to those individual bidders. So when you look at a CMA, the owner plays a more active role in the construction project. They work closely with your architects and your engineers on site. And so therefore the owner's involved of each phase of the construction progress. The CMA also assists the owner with the bidding documents so that the owner, which would be the City of Terrell, we hold all of the vendor contracts so that we are able to know exactly how much is being paid out to each vendor. We also control the contingency for those projects. And so when you compare that to a maximum price contract, generally, as long as your CMAR does not, obviously, if they do not exceed that amount, there's no decision for the owner to make that could possibly lower any of those bids. And also with a CMA, Any of those funds that are not expended, including your contingency, rolls back to the owner and can be reallocated for additional projects. So when we talk about transparency in bidding, this is definitely the most transparent way to go through the construction process. So looking at the next steps, and just to kind of let you know how items were received, on March 29th, we did receive the scope of services from 6 different design service firms and also 3 construction manager agent firms. Each of these responses are being reviewed by the evaluation team, and we will be putting together a recommendation for City Council. One of the things I kind of wanted to walk you through on the next slide is the order that the evaluation team would like to make this recommendation to the City Council. By recommending the CMA contract prior to the design services, it really gives the owner more negotiating power with the design services contract. Generally, if your construction manager agent can get an idea of the project that you're wanting to do and give you actual cost estimates and be able to jot down beforehand, before the architects get involved, and really be able to put together a good budget for your facility or for the project that you're trying to build, then you help determine that construction cost. And we all know that the architect's fees are a percentage of your total construction cost. Your construction manager agent's fees, it's a set rate regardless of the evaluation of the project. It really has more to do with the amount of staffing and the amount of time the individual project will take. So whether that price goes up or down, your CMA fees do not change once you have that task order. So even if you go in and make a lot of even if you go in and you approve a lot of change orders, your architect essentially still gets that same percentage of the total construction cost. But if we're able to negotiate that construction cost with our CMA before recommending the design services firm, then we think that the city will be in a good position to save some money with those design services contracts. So that will be our recommendation going forward, unless you have some questions or concerns about that total process. The next slide is just simply the dates that we're looking at. The evaluation team should be ready to bring to you for discussion next Tuesday. The construction manager agent that we will be recommending, and since we will not be meeting July 11th, we will actually plan to bring to you, alongside with our CMA, the recommendation for the design services.
So, thank you, Raylan, for that presentation. Who is the committee that was overseeing all of this?
We had Chris Knapp, your city engineer, Jeremy Mungen, your project engineer, Mary Gail Ramsey sat in for legal, and then Allison also sat in.
Okay, so through all of the evaluation and and trying to figure out who's going to move forward with the design services and then some of the downtown stuff, have we given our citizens and those that are downtown every opportunity to be involved in some of this, or will their participation come later? I'm not sure. I'm still hearing through mumbles within the community that they're not sure what the council's direction is on the downtown square and the library. What I don't want to do is make it appear that the decisions have already been made if we haven't given them a good enough opportunity to be involved in that. And that's what my question to you is.
The message that I've conveyed about the library, because there has been a lot of questions about it, especially since we had the survey, et cetera. The only thing that we know is that the approximate location would be the town square area. And so when you look at it from this perspective, you have the financial side of, well, where does it fit in when you're looking at budget? And then we are still, you know, 2 years into planning and some of the streets and infrastructure of those town square parcels. So really, it's going to be, you know, we know the street projects that need to happen, and then it would be a determination of the exact location of the building. But I would assume, and probably rightfully so, that this will go back to the public whenever, you know, it's time to really sit down and decide the programming and the square footage. There's still a lot of community engagement that needs to happen, especially for a building like that. I just wanted to make sure that you had some budget numbers and times to
Well,
plug in.
again, and that's been my comment to those who have inquired about what we're doing. It's really the land acquisition that we've completed. Now we're moving on to the next step, but we don't want to leave the public out in it, I don't think. I think that's the wrong thing to do as a council. But Mike, did you want to have something?
I just was going to throw in that 720 Design is the group that we're already working with related to the library. Look at the item here where it says proposed design services. So whenever you guys are working on hiring a firm that will work on design services, sometimes that might be something where you're hiring a firm that is going to have opportunity to have public involvement, and they can get out there and they can get public involvement in certain aspects of the project. So the library is a perfect example of that sort of thing. When you hire somebody to do design services for remodeling Fire Station number 2, well, that's a safety standards and engineering standards process. That's not really a public involvement process to remodel Fire Station number 2. On the other hand, library, new building, heavy public content, heavy usage, massive decisions to be made there about, well, are we including a museum element? Are we including a community center element? Are we gonna co-develop it with the senior center? All sorts of complicated public decisions are part of that one. So that's going to be a very public involvement heavy process. But whenever you see your design services discussion in July, that would be your time where you would say, okay, do I really think that this firm, when needed and when appropriate, can get out there with the public and have some good feedback mechanisms for the public to be involved in?
Okay. All right. Does anybody have any questions for Raylan or really comment? This is discussion, so.
Thank you.
Michael?
To clarify what I heard in terms of public involvement, ongoing public involvement with the library, did I hear us say that 720 Designs will continue to do some public improvement, and so in what sense? And I can certainly defer to our city manager to help answer that. And then 2, are we saying that for the exterior design of the building is when we would expect to see more public involvement, or was that for the what stuff or what rooms are going into the public library?
Yeah, so I would say that both is the answer to that. So 720 Design is going to continue to be involved. They've been the driving force that we've selected for a lot of the what are we going to do with having a very, very well-designed library. But 720 Design is really going to work as part of a team, and that team is going to involve some of the folks you haven't even picked yet, right? You're going to pick a construction manager agent to make sure the money works and there's accountability in the construction process. You're going to pick a design services firm that will be cooperating with 720 Design. So something as inherently important to the public of, okay, are we going to be able to do a senior center in conjunction with, adjacent to, nearby, whatever it might be, with the library, and is that the right strategy for moving forward? That's a very heavy public involvement question. Likewise, you would want to have your architect come forward at some point and say, well, here's a way to arrange the building so that the exterior of the building looks like such and such, and it faces this direction, and it has this much outdoor space, it has this much indoor space. all of those questions that are, I guess I would call the aesthetic questions associated with the outside of the library, all of those are things that you end up vetting through some public processes. Sometimes it's as straightforward as it needs to go to the library board, it needs to go to the Friends of the Library, it needs to, pass through those steps. But it also is just a town hall meeting to say, hey, here's a couple of different ideas. And then the city council needs to be involved in that as well to say, okay, we're gathering all of that. So public involvement is a complicated, multi-year process with everything going on with the library. I'm just making the point that there's a handful of projects you're going to do where, and I think a remodel of an existing building for safety reasons is a good example of this. Not every project is conducive to heavy public involvement. If I'm just redoing a fire station so that I can make sure that it's got additional safety features for staff and it's the right size for the future and we fix a foundation problem, probably not going to see a lot of public involvement in that sort of process.
In summary, what I understand, the CMA contract is really for the administrative, financial, keep us on making sure we have verbiage in the contracts for future contracts that align with what we're looking to see or hold those future contractors accountable as well.
Yes, they're also the ones that are on site. They man the jobs day in and day out.
And on-site are project manager essentially as well.
Yes.
And then for the proposed design services discussion that we're also slated to have on July the 11th, what I really want staff to hear in terms of, if we're going to look to hire an agency to do the design and public information, interacting with the public essentially. I really want to make sure that we are looking and vetting agencies, contractors that have experience with the library, but also have experience in working with, and I wouldn't say getting out of town hall style, meeting community members where they're at. But that's something that I continue to hear, kind of what the mayor has alluded to, where community members aren't so much in the know, and sometimes you get some of the same folks at your standard town hall. So I'm looking for a team that has experience with diverse communities in terms of, are they at home from at 5 o'clock when a meeting is being held, or at 5:30, or are they on their way from their 8 or 10 hour day job to be able to participate? Are we finding community members? Are we reaching community members in, your standard traditional spaces in a conference room, or are we, getting out to our parks or our churches as examples? So that's what I'm really going to be looking for, because I do want to help drive the city narrative and engagement with the community to feel like we're having a true community engagement and conversation as we continue to plan for the library.
I think another piece of that as well is planning better for advertising those town hall style meetings. I know in the past there's been some issues with people feeling like they weren't aware of it. They weren't told about it in time and couldn't attend, and that's a frustration for many of the citizens. So I think we need to try to, I don't know that I would know what would really improve that, but I think it's something we definitely need to look at.
No, for sure, figuring out different avenues to plug in.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Anyone else?
I also have, Raylan, can you walk us through a little bit more for the Downtown British Museum? Well, I see that we're not looking quite yet to put it, to add some funding to a line item for the British Museum unless there's some available. Right. I really am, and I'm happy to see that, because I hear quite a bit about streets and police, fire, safety, some of our basic services, and this is more of a I want type of project. I'd like to have type of project. So it does give me heartburn around how we may finance this. But I'm more interested right now about hearing more about the MOU with the city of Terrell and the BFTS Museum for fundraising and museum interior design. And if I hear from you, you're still drafting that, then I'd like to hear what that timeline looks like.
Right, so just to kind of back up just a little bit. So what TERS number one has allowed you to do in going ahead and having that contract with Mark Thacker is, as we kind of seal up some of these final notes and recommendations from the museum staff themselves, you're essentially going to have a construction-ready project. And that's really what your grant opportunities tend to lean towards, because they don't want to see a lot of their money going into the design, into the concept plan, et cetera. They want quick turnaround on the grant money, et cetera. So if we're able to start construction because of everything that we've put in place, then us being able to get grants for a project like that just got a little bit better. So I did want to address that. That is why it was so important that TERS did everything that they did to get us to this point. And so, no, that coming and asking for additional line items or additional money within the city budget would not be until we were able to gather all the other. To speak to the MOU, one of the recommendations that we're working towards right now is we recognize as the city that, yes, this is a project that we want to do, and we want to do it in conjunction with the British Museum. However, there was never a true definition of what the museum brought to the table and what the city was going to provide. And especially when you go into, okay, now we're ready to start fundraising, or now we're ready to start applying for different grants, you have to have those definitions of, if I'm the BFTS Museum and I'm out raising funds, well, I need to make sure that those funds that you're raising are going to this project, or they're not just necessarily going into an operating fund. So just being able to define different fundraising programs that they may do, or that they may have to specify, is this for a particular project, or when they actually do fundraise for the new museum, that those funds be allocated over to the city, so that we would be the holder of all of the fundraising funds as matches for future grants. And then the other thing is just a few things that we have to make sure that we see the museum do, like have a good operations plan, definitely make sure that they've consulted with a museum consultant on, how do you operate? What are the things that you need within a new museum? Those are things that we don't know, but we want to make sure that we're, leaning towards the experts of making sure that everything on the interior is done. So those are certain things that the museum's definitely going to have to do on their side, so that we can make sure the project, and of course, this would come to y'all as a draft for your review.
Yeah, and
Mike's going to say a few more words, but before then, I appreciate the thought now on having language that helps hold the British Museum accountable. Because although the funding so far hasn't come out of the city's budget, it's come out of the TERS. They're still, it's still money tied
Oh,
to
for
the
sure.
city, right?
Absolutely.
It's still not out of your general operating budget, but it's still money tied to your city. So it is helpful to make sure that we have some language to hold the museum's feet to the fire there. And I had a thought here that I was going with. But what I am looking to see in that MOU, which we've done for other agreements, are, if you reach X amount of funds, or if you have the feasibility plan, then we can move on to step 2 before we move on to, truly considering budget funds. If they haven't been able to produce X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, and that's really what we're looking for, is making sure that even when we're applying for grants, we're able to show what both entities bring to the project and what they've completed. And so that'll be kind of the key in getting the British Museum, kind of on board with the MOU.
Yeah, I just want to say part of what she said nicely, a little more harshly. The next PowerPoint presentation is the 10-year capital plan. There are 0 funds for the British Museum in the 10-year capital plan that you're going to see in your next agenda item. The history lesson on it, I guess, a history lesson about a history museum is that when this idea began, there was the hope that the old Chapman building, 113 Moore, could be acquired and renovated. And when there was a thought that it could be renovated, it was more realistic for the TERS to take on the whole project of simply owning it, taking the old skin off, reskinning it, renovating it, using the wooden floors and everything in it. And it became more and more apparent as we were going through the architectural process that it's really a complete demo and then a rebuild. And so that really pushes this thing into a different budget category. And I think it's important for folks to realize that there's going to be a lot of heavy lifting, like we have on a lot of projects, where we say, look, it's a great project for downtown because getting visitors to come downtown to an attraction is a healthy and good thing. That's an excellent thing for a downtown to have that attraction. On the other hand, we're going to have to work very hard with private donors and grant opportunities to get that thing done, and that's what we're committed to do.
Thank you.
All right. Next on the agenda is discuss 10-year capital plan. Mr. Sims?
So I'm going to go to the next PowerPoint presentation, courtesy of Don here, so I appreciate that help. I'll jump right into it. So you adopt, we've been doing this here recently every year where we try to adopt a 10-year capital plan. This is kind of a new thing that we've been doing, but we do want to update it again this year, and my hope is that right around, prior to your August budget retreat, we want to vote on and approve a 10-year capital plan sometime in July. So I won't rehash all of this, but I wanted to give you a quick look at recent success with capital projects, and by that I mean things we've borrowed money for, okay? So, you know, we've got, North Alley water and sewer utilities completed. We've started the work on South Alley. We've got the park lighting completed, park bathrooms on order and being delivered. The Temple project is underway. You can go take a look at Jameson. It's been extended. Metro Drive is about to go through its construction process. So just an absolute ton of things going on. That 8205 water and sewer utility relocation, that's what made it possible for TxDOT to invest $16 million in the city and rebuild the intersection of 148, 205, and 80. So you've had great success with your borrowing over the last few years, and I just wanted to give you a snapshot of some recent ones. The next PowerPoint slide is basically what we've done here is we've built a year-by-year snapshot about what the borrowing would be each year from FY23 moving forward. And so I'll start at the bottom of this one. In the fall of 2022, Council approved about $11.5 million on some water projects, part of those through Texas Water Development Board, part of those through the city, about $7 million, again, part of that Texas Water Development Board, part of that through the city. What are we proposing for borrowing in the summer of 2023? So this is how quickly this is moving. We've been going through the analysis with Jason Hughes, your financial advisor. We do believe that we can move forward with a borrowing of a meaningful dollar amount. We think $27 million is going to be the number that we'll come forward with for a debt issuance in the summer of 2023. The star of that show is Fire Station number 3, and you can see it's got a $20 million price tag placed on it. We think we can be able to put a little bit of money in there for some parkland acquisition. And we're using very round numbers on all of this, by the way, so I don't want to imply that any one thing will be exactly this price, but that's the nature of capital planning, right? You're using round numbers, okay? And then streets, y'all know what we mean when we say red streets. Those are the ones that are considered to be the ones in the worst condition or failed streets. It's not hard to make a mental list of what some of those might be, but I can tell you that if we're going to put a fire station where fire engines will drive up and down Apache Trail every day, think there's a couple of people in the audience who will get mad at me if we don't make improvements to Apache Trail, because I don't want to ruin fire engines running up and down Apache Trail if we fail to rebuild very, very meaningful chunks of Apache Trail. So that does give council some wiggle room there. I think it'd be excellent to pick a set of streets to deliver. And you can be thinking there that outside of Apache Trail, that's going to be staff trying to work through the process of saying what was read on the last round of our roadway analysis and where can we be most impactful with those dollars and stretch that as far as possible. So that's a snapshot of the summer 2023 borrowing. The next slide takes you to FY24. So you can see streets, facilities, okay, a little bit less going there in terms of dollar amounts. We know that in order to deliver the library location, there's a whole series of improvements that need to get done. And one of them is Francis getting reworked from Broad to Newton. Another one is Newton getting reworked from Virginia to Medora. That's putting proper street cross sections in there. We could not possibly do Francis from Broad to Newton and Newton from Virginia to Medora for $4 million. That $4 million takes into account that we're very hopeful that we'll get a $4 million grant for part of that package, and really do need to get that grant as part of that project. Facilities, that's where we put the $2 million for rehabbing station number 2 in, and about $1 million in preliminary expenses related to facilities on the library. Skip down to downtown there. We know there's some downtown capital improvements that are being worked on in the TERS board. We think that'd be around $4 million. Water, whole list of projects there. I won't detail all of those, but that's 8.6 million. Sewer, 4.3 million. And again, drainage, you've talked about this a couple of times. You have a $500,000 engineering project underway right now where we're calling that the Rochester Drainage Phase 1. That's Rochester, the water that runs along the trench that's alongside of Rochester, and that goes under State Highway 34, under Spur 226, under that Spur railroad track that's over in that area. And so, again, all of that together, some of that's backed by your stormwater fund, some of that backed by utility, some of that backed by the tax increment refinance zone. So that's almost $30 million worth of borrowing in FY24. The next slide is FY25, and you can see the top three are blank there, right? So that means in FY25, you're not doing anything that would impact your INS tax rate, okay? So one of the things that Jason Hughes and I are working on is making sure that we do this in a way where your overall 76-cent tax rate would remain unchanged. So where you see it where we say paddock, or you see where we say TERS, that's using those dedicated funds to do things. So here we've got $4 million for complete streets and quiet zones. That'd be a local match for a large part of our hope to get a grant for quiet zones and complete streets. Water, you can see some town square work there. You can see finishing up issues with the poetry tank. And then the sewer projects there, $8.3 million, trying to get that work done. And then the phase 2 of that Rochester drainage project. And what we're trying to do in FY25 is get ourselves ready on the next slide for an FY26 where it would actually be feasible to do the relocation of the library to a town square. So I'd like to remind folks that right now our library operates out of 3 buildings, all of which are too small for the library operations in those buildings. You've got our adult education over in what's called the Little House building, close to the ISD administration building. You've got the literacy depot, that's more kid-type programming, and of course the main public library over there on North Rockwall. All of those are full. All of those operations could instantly expand if we had more floor space. And we also have the issue, as I mentioned before, of, well, gosh, can we build the library big enough to include senior center? Can we build it large enough to include some museum elements? Can we build it large enough to include some community center elements? All of those are big question marks right now. But if we put a series of things in place methodically between now and FY26, including the additional downtown improvements for TERS 1 and the additional water improvements down there that you see where it says Town Square. We've got some water work to do, some sewer work to do, drainage work to do. All of that would make it possible in FY26 to finally get to that library phase. So when folks say, hey, are you going to do public involvement related to library and town square and all that good stuff? My answer is absolutely, because there is so much work to be done, and we have the time to do it between FY24, FY25, FY26. And so right now, when we look at the math of when we can afford to borrow things and when, frankly, the preliminary construction elements of just getting the roads, the water, the sewer, the drainage done in advance, where we could feasibly say, yes, we can be a good host to a public library in the town square. That really takes until FY26 to get that done. The next PowerPoint slide shows you the next slot at this. I got a little error on this one where it says $5 million for facilities, and then it says 10 million fire drill field administration. That 10 million should say 5 million fire drill field and administration. So sorry about that error. Another round of streets. So that's another round of red streets in FY27. The fire drill field you've been briefed on by Chief LaCroix. We think that's a very important thing for us, but probably can't work that into the spending until we get out to FY27. Downtown, another round of paddock projects there. And then you can see big planning. TERS number 2 will be working by that time on building a west side wastewater treatment plant. That's a very expensive effort, funded by mostly by TERS 2, probably partially by TERS number 4. Probably also be some city funding in that, because that's going to allow us to redirect some of our current wastewater flows, and then some additional drainage projects in there as well. The next PowerPoint slide shows you FY28. So this time around, we've tried to improve a little bit of money for parks. We need to be working with North Texas Municipal Water District on having a second take point, so there's $7 million in there. And then because we know we have an aging system, we've just included this sort of plug number of, well, gosh, we've got an old system. We've got, we still have clay pipes underground, moving sewer every day. We're going to have things that break, and we're going to have to make infill capital projects in our sewer system. So we included that number there. FY29, you move on to the next one. There's your fire station number 1 relocation. I can assure you that Chief LaCroix has raised his hand and said, man, that's not soon enough. We need to move station number 1 sooner. So I'll put that comment in there for him. And then again, another round of those sewer infill capital projects there. You move over to FY30. FY30's got another round of the street improvements in it, some more work on that North Texas Municipal Water District second take point, more drainage projects, and then another crack at those airport master plan projects. FY31, really I'm getting close to the end of 10 years here, don't worry. So another round of parks. By this time, we assume there'll be another round of downtown improvements that the Park and Downtown Improvement Corporation will want to make, and then again, another $5 million on sewer. And then last couple of slides here, here's FY32, another round of red local streets and sidewalks, another round of water projects, and then the next slide shows you the summary of all of that. I won't really go through the summary. That's the math of how all of that adds up. And then the next slide from there is really something else I wanted to kind of mention to kind of go through the thinking here. Well, wait a minute here. By the time I get to FY33, you're going to have a police department building that, goodness gracious, but our police department building, which seems so new now, will be 20 years old. And we'll still have a municipal court that is in a way homeless. They use the Rosenbaum room right now. By the time we get around to, 10 years from now, will we really be able to maintain that situation where municipal court won't need its own building? At some point, there'll be additional improvements to existing parks. There'll be local matches necessary for grants and partnerships. Maybe we can get senior center redone as part of building the library, maybe not, so I put that on the list. Y'all who have been on council for a while know that replacing City Hall is just going to have to be done sometime. This building was built in the mid-1970s, and you've got probably 3 inches of difference between the floor in different places in this building. we're only going to last so long here. Major new city-only roadways, lots to be done there, lots to be done with drainage. Didn't even mention the Alamo Drainage Project, and we've been applying for grants on the Alamo Drainage Project for the last 10 years to try to get the Alamo Drainage Project done. Water and sewer rehab will be done, need to be done. We own 3 lakes. We're going to have to keep working on our lakes. We'll have other things to do with other projects, so I kind of put that there as a catch-all. You can't fit everything into a 10-year plan, but I just wanted to kind of raise that there. So that's the last of those PowerPoint slides. What I'll say overall is if you go back earlier in today's PowerPoint or today's packet, you saw from Dawn something that Omira is our lead worker on, where we're working on our strategic plan. Whenever we see strategic plan and that strategic plan meeting that's going to happen on June 29th, that workshop, this is going to get talked about at that workshop. And I'm going to bring this back a couple of times so that we can all talk through it, all get comfortable with it, and we can get a lot of council input on that 10-year capital plan. I can tell you, for each of the directors that are involved in any of those projects, be it Becca with library, be it Shane with anything fire, be it Glenn Caldwell and Chris Snap on roadways, every single director we have that reviewed this document as we were working on it raised their hand and said, I need more and I need it sooner, okay? Because we just have a lot of needs as a growing city. We have a lot of needs as a 1873 community. We have a lot of things in this city that aren't new anymore and haven't been new in 40 years. So we're going to have things to work on. But that's the purpose of doing a 10-year capital plan. We want your feedback as council. We want your input. Want you to have time to work on it and want you to have time to think about it. So we'll show it to you a few times. We'll take input on it. Happy to talk about it tonight, but we don't anticipate a vote for a little over a month on it.
So what I would say is that, you know what, this is a 10-year capital plan, so there's a lot of spending, and the financials are going to have to support that spending. So we're going to have some tough decisions to make, and like Mike alluded to already, we won't be able to do everything, but we're gonna have to make policy decisions and determine what is best for this community. Safety, I would think, would be key on everybody else, and as we move forward with our discussions, you know, I'd just ask you to keep that in mind. But yeah, it's a big number. Does anybody else have any questions? I would say that once we get into our workshops, that would be the time to really hit it hard. But if you have anything that stood out to you and you want Mike to look at, please let him know. All right.
I'm kind of speechless, but how much do what's the city's debt right now? I probably should know this being on council when I look line by line. What's our debt right now?
Well, I won't try to quote that to you right now, but I'll just bring that back next time we meet. Be happy to get that number for you.
Do you have a range that I could sleep on next week or whenever you?
I don't think
I would say that on INS alone, we borrowed $20 million a couple of years ago. We borrowed $15 million to build the police building. We borrowed $7 million to build Griffith and Rose Hill. So right there, and in just in the last 10 years, that's $40 million roughly on the INS debt side. And so again, let me gather the rest of it, and but that's a little snapshot for you.
We need the people. We need the houses. We need the income. We need the taxation. We need the, oh my. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? No, you know what? And I would say to you, every community that grows and is growing is having the same discussions as to how to allocate best for the future. And so we're going to work through it. We're going to get through it. It'll be fine. But yeah, we've got some tough decisions to make as a council as we move forward. Good. Anyone else?
Yeah, I just want to say that one of the things that I've noticed over the last couple of years, just talking to different people on city council and in the city, is I've been really impressed with the effort that the city always makes to try and get grants to help with funding on everything. You know, grant writing is a lot of work. I know that because I've done it in the past. And, you know, I just really applaud that, because that's a way to help support our community without having to increase taxes any. So I think that's a really big deal.
You got a master
Thank
grant
you.
writer sitting right over here.
Right, anyone else? All right, thank you, Mike. Next item on the agenda is discuss and consider construction plat for North Spur East Major Infrastructure Development Analyst, Omira. No, it didn't either. It's Chris Snap.
Council and Mayor and City Manager, and Councilwoman Holmes, I want to bring to you how we're going to solve some of your concerns,
All ears.
okay? So I'm going to wow you, and I want to use it as a locator first. I'm bringing for you tonight to discuss and consider a construction plat for the North Spur East Major Infrastructure. If you look at your screen right there, you'll see on the left, let's just kind of orient ourselves. You see the white line in the middle. That is presented as the future outer loop. So that's kind of our division line. So Mayor, Councilwoman Holmes, you kind of see on the left, you see all those homes and residential area. Those are in the future. This location is out there where 80 and 557 join. As you recall, the pet spa is out there, not the pet spa, yeah, the pet spa and some other facilities out there. And this is where this is going to be located. So what I'm bringing for you tonight is a construction plat, and we're only going to focus on the right side of that white line of the outer loop. So we're bringing for you tonight the construction plat for the East Major infrastructure. And what this consists of is we have with us tonight Ryan Spears of GM Civil that's representing North Spur tonight. He's here tonight to answer any other detailed questions, but this is a construction plat that is going to involve the industrial side of this facility, this whole area here. So you'll see what you have in front of you is the construction plat of itself, where it's plot area. The next slide will kind of orient you. If I can show you, you'll see the bottom line at the bottom, at the bottom of the page, where it says Hines and GM Civil, is roughly where Highway 80 is located. And if you all recall where the old truck stop, the racetrack. I lost my mind there for a second. But the racetrack, truck stop was located there. This is where this is going to start to begin. You'll see that there's actually, and I can't say this word, but it's very hard. It's called Longhorn Drive. So we're going to get better at naming streets in the future. So you'll see, I probably won't even drive down it, to be honest with you. Okay? Or I'll have to drive backwards down it. But Longhorn Drive is going to be the main road off this, and it's going to be the access into the industrial park of that. So this is a construction plat, and one thing I want to note that we're kind of thinking of in the future, if you'll see where the red letters it says Hines, you'll turn on to Longhorn Drive, and there's actually a dotted road up there. So we're planning for the future. That's a dotted road that's just as a concept of where it's going for the future thoroughfare on up to a bypass. So we're making plans to what of the future could hold. But what's being presented to you is actually the roadway, the right-of-way of the Longhorn Drive, all the way over to basically the new outer loop that's going to be presented in the future.
That'll help traffic flow off of 80 into that
Yes.
development, right?
Yes.
So does anybody have any questions of Mr. Snap?
This is to discuss and consider tonight.
Yeah. North Spur East Major Infrastructure.
Planning and Zoning Committee did approve this with a unanimous vote.
Unanimous vote?
Yes,
Planning and zoning? Okay.
yes, to accept it. They accepted it.
All right. Any questions? Okay, thank you. Ms. Knapp, is there a motion on item 9.1?
Motion to approve item 9.1 as presented.
There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion from Mayor Ronnie Velazquez, Mayor Pro Tem District 3, a second from Stephanie Holmes Thomas, Deputy Mayor Pro Tem District 4, to accept the construction plat for North Spur East Major Infrastructure. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous vote of those present. Our next item, are we gonna do executive? We are gonna adjourn into executive session in accordance with section 551 of the, where am I? We're gonna adjourn into executive session in accordance with section 551 of the Texas Government Code to discuss the following. Section 551.087, deliberations regarding economic development negotiations. We are now in executive session.
Charles is on board.
Yeah, we need to put him one out there somewhere.
This time, we're going to reconvene into regular session and consider action, if any, on items discussed in executive session. Does anybody have any motions? Hearing none, we are adjourned.
Good meeting, Mayor.
Yeah, thank you.